5 powerful quotes by Carl Jung that changed the lives of millions. Opening. Have you ever felt that you're living a very busy life, yet the more you live, the emptier you feel? Have you ever asked yourself, why do I keep trying, yet still feel like I don't belong to my own life? Have you ever been so exhausted that you just wanted to disappear for a while, not out of self-destruction, but from overload? We learn how to please others, how to be strong, how to be okay, how to smile at the right moments. Yet we forget one simple thing. Who am I when no one is watching? And the most frightening thing is not failure. The most frightening thing is succeeding in a script that was never yours. You achieve what people call right, yet inside it feels wrong. If you are in that state, this video is for you. Not to teach you positive living, but to help you look straight into the deepest part of yourself, where truth begins. Today, we will walk through 5 powerful quotes by Carl Jung. Not the kind of quotes meant to sound impressive, but sentences capable of overturning how you see life. Each quote is a doorway leading downward into the deep layers of the psyche. Persona, the mask, shadow, projection, and the journey of individuation becoming who you truly are. But we won't stop at psychological analysis. We will place these quotes alongside Stoicism, the grounded philosophy of Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus. Because Jung helps you understand depth, and Stoicism helps you remain standing in the storm. If you want more videos like this, subscribe to Stoicism Jungian, press like, share with someone who needs it, and leave a comment. I'm ready to look within. One in that band then tap to lose. Let's begin. Part 1. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes. Jung's quote. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes. The anxiety of modern people doesn't come from having nothing. It comes from having too much outside. Information, expectations, standards, comparisons, praise, criticism. We live like antennas, constantly receiving signals from others. And the more signals we receive, the more we lose our own signal. Jung called this outward-facing way of living persona, the social mask. Persona is not bad. It helps us integrate, work, maintain politeness, build an image. The problem arises when persona becomes the house, and the true self becomes a temporary tenant in its own life. You can recognize this through small signs. You are always fine in front of others, but feel empty when alone. You fear disappointing others more than you fear your own pain. You choose your career, relationships, lifestyle because you should, not because it's true. Jung said, looking outward is dreaming. Dreaming here doesn't mean a beautiful dream, but living in a collective trance. Everyone is chasing something. Everyone is busy. Everyone is proving something. You wake up every day and run without knowing what you're running toward. Stoicism calls this losing the inner citadel. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, inside each person is a fortress. If you guard it, life cannot steal you. But if you hand control to praise and blame, you will be pulled like a puppet. Epictetus offered a simple principle. Some things are within our control, others are not. Within control, how you think, how you choose, how you act. Outside control, others' judgments, life's fluctuations, other people's emotions. When you look outward too much, you live by what you cannot control. The result? Anxiety, exhaustion, and a quiet sense of defeat even though you haven't lost to anyone. So what does it mean to look inward and awaken? Not meditating to escape life, but returning to face the truth. What am I trying to prove? Who am I afraid of being seen as? Am I living for what I believe or for what others praise? Stoicism doesn't ask you to escape society. It simply reminds you, don't let society decide who you are. Jung doesn't ask you to discard the persona. He only warns, don't confuse the persona with the soul. A simple exercise for this part. Tonight, before sleeping, write 3 sentences. 1. What role did I perform today? 2. What did I stay silent about because I feared judgment? 3. If no one criticized me, how would I live differently? That is the first step of awakening. An awakening, for both Jung and Stoicism, always begins with one small act. The courage to look directly. Part 2. Everything that irritates us about others leads us back to ourselves. Jung's quote, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." Here is a hard truth to swallow. Most of what we hate in others isn't because they are bad, but because they touch a nerve inside us. Jung called this projection. You see someone showing off, you feel irritated. You see someone cold, you feel irritated. You see someone weak, you feel irritated. Why? Perhaps because within you exists a part that wants to show off, wants to be cold, wants to be weak, but you forbid it from existing. You were taught, men don't show weakness, don't be greedy, don't be selfish, don't get angry. So you build a persona, polite, correct, strong, and you push the forbidden parts into the basement. That basement is called the shadow. The shadow doesn't contain only evil. It also holds energies you rejected: decisiveness, boldness, vitality, healthy ambition. Because it's denied, it becomes distorted and often emerges through judgment. Stoicism sees this clearly. Irritation doesn't come from the event, but from your judgment about the event. Epictetus said, "It's not things that disturb us, but our judgments about them." Someone acts, you assign meaning. That meaning triggers wounds, pride, fear, or hidden shadow. And you say, "They made me angry." Jung says that irritation is a signal, a warning light on the dashboard. It's saying, there's something here that hasn't been understood. Look deeper. If you're irritated by someone boasting, maybe you long for recognition but fear criticism. If you're irritated by someone lazy, maybe you're exhausted and the part that wants rest has been labeled weak. If you're irritated by someone cold, maybe that coldness exposes your own need for affection. Marcus Aurelius taught a powerful attitude. See other people as exercises for the soul, not exercises to endure them, but exercises to train your perception. When someone irritates you, ask, 1. What in them is activating me? 2. Do I carry a similar part, even slightly? 3. Am I demanding they change because I refuse to face this part in myself? This is not self-blame. This is reclaiming power. If the cause is them, you're helpless. If the cause lies in your response, you can learn and transform. This is where Jung and Stoicism meet. Jung says, freedom comes from making the unconscious conscious. Stoicism says, peace comes from disciplining judgment, a small practice. Next time you feel irritated, don't counterattack. Pause for one beat and say silently, this is my reaction. It's telling a story about me. With that single sentence, you prevent the shadow from taking the wheel. And when you stop seeing others as enemies, you begin seeing them as mirrors. Not to condemn yourself, but to understand yourself. Part 3. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light. Jung's quote, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Our era is obsessed with light, positivity, healing, high vibration, good energy. Jung was blunt. Imagined light will not save you. You don't grow by hypnotizing yourself into thinking you're fine. You grow by daring to face the darkness you've been avoiding. The darkness isn't evil. It is anger you suppress, turning into bitterness. Jealousy you deny, turning into sabotagely. Fear of abandonment you hide, turning into control. Longing for love you refuse to admit, turning into dependency. Jung called the process making the darkness conscious. Once you name it, it no longer controls you unconsciously. Stoicism carries the same principle in different language. Look directly at reality without decoration. Seneca described pain as training. What breaks us isn't pain itself, but the belief that we cannot endure it. Many people use positivity to escape pain. They say, I'm fine, it's nothing, just let it go. But pain doesn't disappear. It retreats deeper and changes form. Insomnia, irritability, emptiness, addiction to forgetting. Jung asks, if you want healing, what am I afraid to name? Who am I angry at but pretending I'm not? What am I grieving that I feel ashamed of? Marcus Aurelius offers the discipline of an emperor. Don't blur your own mind. If you are sad, know that you are sad. If you are angry, know that you are angry. But knowing is not exploding. Knowing is mastery. This is where many misunderstand Stoicism. They think Stoics have no emotions. No, Stoics are not dragged by emotions. You still feel, but you don't let feeling write your destiny. Jung adds, strong emotions are often doorways into the shadow. The more proper someone appears outwardly, the more extreme their shadow tends to erupt. The more virtuous someone seems, the more likely they are to collapse under an incomprehensible rage. The kinder someone appears, the more guilt and self-contempt may fill their inner life. So, how do you bring darkness into the light without self-destruction? Follow these 3 steps agreed upon by both Jung and Stoicism. 1. Name it. What is this emotion? Anger, fear, jealousy, sadness, emptiness. 2. Separate from it. I am having this emotion, not I am this emotion. When this scene 9. 3. Choose the right action. Act from values, not impulse. If you do this, something strange happens. When darkness is acknowledged, it loses its violence. When you stop running, it stops chasing. If your chest feels heavy right now, perhaps this video is touching the right place. Subscribe to Stoicism Jungian, press like, and leave one short, honest comment. The shadow I often avoid is, you don't need to explain. One truthful sentence is enough. Because sometimes, healing begins. The moment we dare to admit, part 4, when what is unconscious inside you happens outside as fate. Jung's quote, the psychological rule says that when an inner situation is not made conscious, it happens outside as fate. There are people who live as if they are cursed. They love the same kind of person over and over, hit the same barriers no matter what they do, and wherever they go, they carry the same feeling of abandonment. And they conclude, this is just my fate. Jung says, sometimes what you call fate is simply an inner situation that has not been made conscious, so it has to replay itself outside for you to see it. If you don't learn the lesson consciously, life will teach it through experience. This is the core of individuation, the journey of becoming yourself. Individuation is not success. Individuation is when you are no longer ruled by the collective unconscious, by persona, by shadow, by unseen wounds. Stoicism has a nearly identical insight. If you don't govern what's inside, the outside will govern you. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that the outer world is always unstable. The only reliable thing is a trained mind. When Jung says it happens outside as fate, he is not denying circumstances. He is saying you have responsibility within the pattern. And responsibility here is a gift because it gives power back to you. Examples? You always fall in love with emotionally distant people? Maybe inside you lives a pattern that believes love must be earned. You are repeatedly betrayed? Maybe your shadow struggles with boundaries. You fear loss, so you give too much. Resentment builds, and you choose wrongly. You always self-sabotage just before success? Maybe deep inside lives the belief, I don't deserve it, and you unconsciously create mistakes to justify it. Seneca called these patterns inner slavery. From the outside, you look free. Inside, you are pulled by invisible strings. Fear of abandonment, fear of judgment, fear of being dismissed, fear of not being enough. Jung would say these are archetypes operating within you, deep patterns. The child, afraid of being left behind. The lover, seeking love to be rescued. The hero, needing to win to have value. The judge, condemning others to avoid facing his own fear. Stoicism doesn't deny archetypes. Stoicism simply asks, what will you do with this? You don't choose your wound, but you choose how you live with it. A powerful question for this part. What pattern keeps repeating in my life, and what is it protecting me from? Because harmful patterns are often old survival strategies. They once helped you avoid pain. Now, they cost you your life. Individuation is the moment you say, thank you for helping me survive, but I don't need you to live anymore. And friend, and here comes the most stoic moment. You accept reality without self-pity, without blame, without romanticizing suffering. You calmly look at what is within your control, what is not is die, and which virtue you will act from. Courage, temperance, justice, wisdom. When you make the inner situation conscious, fate begins to change its tone. Life no longer needs to scream at you through tragedy. It can speak softly, and you can hear it. Part 5. Neurosis is a way of avoiding legitimate suffering. Jung's quote, "Neurosis is always a substitute for legitimate suffering." Many people are not afraid of pain. They are afraid of the feeling of pain. And to avoid that feeling, they create hundreds of escapes. Busyness, social media addiction, work addiction, relationship addiction, addiction to being okay. Jung speaks plainly. Some disorders don't exist because you are weak, but because you are using them to replace a legitimate suffering, a pain that must be lived through, not sealed off. What does legitimate mean? It means the pain has a reason. You lost something. You were hurt. You were betrayed. You were abandoned. You are disappointed in yourself. You deserve to grieve. You deserve to hurt. But society teaches, be strong. And you misunderstand it. Strength means not feeling. So you suppress, and suppressed pain doesn't disappear. It turns into symptoms. Tension, numbness, panic, insomnia, emotional shutdown, sudden outbursts. Stoicism is often misunderstood here. Stoicism does not tell you don't be sad. Stoicism tells you don't let sadness rob you of wisdom. Seneca wrote extensively about grief and loss. He allowed pain but not self-destruction. Marcus Aurelius saw pain as part of nature. Life has birth and death. But he emphasized something higher. What matters is how you respond. Jung adds another layer. If you don't live through legitimate suffering, you live in a cycle of avoidance. And that cycle steals your life in small ways. Procrastination, avoiding confrontation, overgiving to be loved, wearing masks to be respected, self-sabotaging when peace approaches because you're not used to calm. One clear sign. You don't know what you want, but you know exactly what you don't want to feel. You don't choose your life. You choose escape routes. So how do you let legitimate pain pass without drowning in it? Stoicism plus Jung suggest a very grounded path. Step 1. Give pain a place to exist. Say honestly, I am sad. I am hurting. I am disappointed. No justification, no shame. Step 2. Don't turn pain into identity. You have pain, but you are not pain. Epictetus would remind you, you control your perspective. Jung would remind you, you are going through a phase, you are not the phase. Step 3, take the lesson, not your soul. Many people close their hearts after pain and become cold. That is not maturity. That is numbness. Maturity is keeping the heart with added wisdom and boundaries. Step 4, transform pain into ethical strength. Stoicism calls this virtue. You don't use pain to hurt others. You use pain to understand others better, live more honestly, choose more wisely. When you dare to endure legitimate suffering, something strange happens. Pain has an ending. It's like a storm, it must be passed through. If you keep running, the storm stays. This is why many people lose themselves not because life is too harsh, but because they never allow themselves to suffer correctly. Part 6. 5 quotes, 1 map of awakening, from mask to essence. Now let's assemble Jung's 5 quotes into a living map and place it on the foundation of Stoicism, so it becomes a path, not just philosophy. Quote 1. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes. The beginning. You stop living inside the collective dream. Stoicism calls this returning to the inner citadel. Quote 2. What irritates you in others leads you back to yourself. You stop judging as a habit and begin observing as a student. Stoicism calls this discipline of judgment. Jung calls it withdrawing projection. Quote 3. No one becomes enlightened by imagining light. You abandon fake positivity and step into truth. Stoicism calls this courage. Jung calls it making the shadow conscious. Quote 4. What you don't make conscious appears as fate. You realize repeating patterns aren't curses, they are lessons. Stoicism calls this responsibility for what is in your control. Quote 5. Neurosis is a substitute for legitimate suffering. You stop running. You suffer correctly. Stoicism calls this dignified endurance. Jung calls it transformation through passage. So, in everyday language, what is individuation? Individuation is when you no longer live to be liked, no longer run to forget, no longer love to be rescued as, no longer hate to avoid looking within, no longer act okay to avoid being real for. Individuation is living as an adult human being, having a shadow without letting it steer, having emotions without being dragged by them, having goals without selling your soul to reach them. Stoicism says to live well is to live by virtue. Jung says to live truthfully is to live by your essence. They meet at one point, awareness and choice, a simple daily ritual to stay on this path. Morning, what is within my control today? Midday, what role am I performing for too long? Evening, what disturbed me today and what did it teach me? If you practice this consistently, you'll notice life doesn't get easier, but you become less tangled. And when you are less tangled, you become strong in a quiet way, strong from the roots. Conclusion, there is a silent tragedy many never notice. You can live an entire life without truly living your life. You can become a praiseworthy version and lose the version with a soul. Carl Jung did not come to lull you to sleep. He came to wake you up. If you don't dare to look inward, you will live like a sleepwalker. You will call patterns fate. You will call numbness peace. You will call masks character. Stoicism also doesn't offer cheap comfort. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, life is impermanent, people change, and everything you love can be lost. Yet, you still have one supreme power, the power to choose how you live. You cannot control what others think, but you can control whether you betray yourself. You cannot control the past, but you can control whether you continue living as a victim today. You cannot control whether life hurts, but you can control whether you have the courage to suffer correctly and move through it. If there is one strong healing message shared by Jung and Stoicism, it is this. You don't need to become someone new. You need to return to who you truly are. Returning is not loud. Returning means saying no to what makes you lose yourself. Returning means slowing down, listening to emotion again, seeing patterns again, withdrawing projections, embracing the shadow, and choosing again. And when you do that, you'll notice the world doesn't change instantly, but you change. And when you change, the entire world inside you changes with it. If this video helped you settle and reflect, subscribe to Stoicism Jungian, press like, share it with someone stuck within themselves, and leave a comment. I choose to return. I will read and reply to the deepest comments as a real dialogue, not a courtesy. Stoicism Jungian, holding the inner ground, illuminating the shadow.